Chapter 1, Free Initiative. Millions of students throughout the world go to school and university daily in an unconscious, mechanical, and subjective way without knowing why or for what purpose. Students are forced to study mathematics, physics, chemistry, geography, etc. Students' minds are receiving information daily. However, in life, it never occurs to them to think for a while the reason of such information and its objective. Why and for what purpose do we feed ourselves with that information? Students really live a mechanical life and only know that they have to receive intellectual information and store it in their unfaithful memory, that is all. It never occurs to students to think about what education really is. They go to school, college, and university because their parents say so. It never occurs to students or teachers to ask themselves, why am I here? What have I come here for? What really is the true secret motivation which brings me here? Teachers and students live with their conscience asleep. They really act as machines going to school, college, university in an unconscious and subjective way without really knowing why or for what reason. It is necessary to stop being machines, to awaken conscience and discover for ourselves what does it mean, this utterly terrifying struggle of passing exams, living at a certain place to study daily and spend the whole year going through worries, anguishes, and painful moments, practicing sports, going through arguments, fighting with fellow students, etc. Teachers should become more conscious in order to help students to awaken their conscience, be it at school, college, or university. It is regrettable to see so many machines seated at desks in schools, colleges, and universities, receiving information that they have to memorize, without knowing why or for what purpose. Young people are only worried about getting through and finishing the school year. They have been told they should prepare themselves to earn a living, get a job, etc. They study building up 1,000 fantasies about the future without really knowing the present moment, without knowing the true reason for studying physics, chemistry, biology, arithmetic, geography, etc. Modern girls study to prepare themselves to find a good husband, to earn a living and be duly prepared in case they are abandoned, widowed, or never marry. Pure fantasies of the mind, because in fact they do not know what the future holds for them, nor at what age will they die. Life at school is very vague, incoherent, and subjective. Children are forced to learn certain subjects which are worthless in everyday life. Nowadays, what is important at school is getting through the year's course, and that is all. In the past, there was at least something ethical in passing a year's course. Now, such ethics do not exist. Parents can secretly bribe teachers. Even if a boy or girl is an extremely bad student, he or she will inevitably pass the year. Schoolgirls often sweeten male teachers with the purpose of passing the school year, and the result is usually marvelous, even when they have not understood anything about what was taught by the teacher. By all means, they do well in their examinations and pass the school year. There are students who are very clever at passing a school year. This is a matter of tricks and astuteness in many cases. For a student who successfully passes a certain examination, some stupid examination, it does not mean that he has a true objective conscience about the subject in which he was examined. A student repeats in a mechanical way, like a parrot, the subject he studied and which he was examined in. That does not mean we are conscious of that subject, but that means to memorize and repeat like a parrot or chatterbox what we have learned. And that is all. To pass an examination and get through a year does not mean we are very intelligent. In everyday life, we have known very intelligent people who never did well in examinations at school. We have known magnificent writers and great mathematicians who were very bad students at school and never did well in grammar and mathematics examinations. We know a case of a very bad student in anatomy who was only able to do well in anatomy examinations after much suffering. Today, that student is the author of a popular book on anatomy. To pass a school year does not necessarily mean we are very intelligent. There are people who have never passed a school year, and they are very intelligent. There is something more important, that passing a school year and studying certain subjects, that is precisely to have full objective conscience, clear and luminous about those subjects being studied. Teachers should exert themselves to help students to awaken their conscience. They should direct all their efforts to the conscience of students. It is imperative for students to have a full conscience about the subjects they study. To learn by heart, like parrots, is simply stupid in the most complete sense of the word. Students are forced to study difficult subjects and to store them in their memory to pass a school year. Afterwards, in everyday life, these subjects are not only useless, but are also forgotten because the memory is unfaithful. Young people study with the purpose of obtaining a job and earning their living. Later, if they are lucky, they get their desired job. If they become professionals, doctors, lawyers, etc., they will only repeat the same story as always. They marry, have children, and suffer. They die without awakening conscience, without having conscience of their own life. Girls marry, have their homes, children, argue with their neighbors, husband and children, divorce, remarry, become widows, grow old, etc. In the end, they die after having lived asleep, unconscious, repeating the same painful drama of existence as usual. Teachers do not want to accept the fact that all human beings have their conscience asleep. It is imperative for teachers to awaken their conscience so that they can help to awaken the student's conscience. It is useless to fill our heads with more and more theories and to quote Dante, Homer, Virgil, etc., if our conscience is sleeping, if we do not have a clear and objective conscience about ourselves, the subjects we study, and everyday life. What is the use of education if we do not become creative, conscious, and truly intelligent? Real education does not mean knowing how to read and write. Any stupid person, any fool can know how to read and write. We need to have intelligence, and it only awakens within us when the conscience awakened. Mankind has 97% of subconsciousness and 3% of conscience. We need to awaken conscience in order to turn the subconscious into conscious and achieve 100% of conscience. A human being not only dreams when his physical body sleeps, but also dreams when his physical body does not sleep, when he is in a state of wakefulness. It is necessary to stop dreaming, to awaken conscience, and that awakening process should begin at home and school. Teachers' efforts should be directed to students' conscience and not just to the memory. Students should learn to think for themselves and not only repeat others' theories like parrots or chatterboxes. Teachers should struggle to put an end to fear in students. Teachers should allow their students freedom to disagree and healthily criticize in a constructive manner all theories that are studied. It is absurd to force them to accept in a dogmatic way all the theories taught in school, college, and university. It is necessary and imperative for students to abandon fear, to be able to think for themselves and analyze theories which they study. Fear is one of the barriers to intelligence. Students with fear do not dare to disagree and blindly accept, as articles of faith, whatever different authors say. It is useless for teachers to talk about fearlessness if they are fearful. Teachers should be free of fear. Teachers who fear criticism, what people say, etc., cannot be truly intelligent. The true objective of education should be to awaken conscience and put an end to fear. Want is the use of passing examinations if we continue being afraid and unconscious. Teachers have the duty to help students at their school desks to become useful in life. But as long as fear exists, no one can be useful in life. A person full of fear does not dare to disagree with other people's opinion. A person full of fear cannot have free initiative. Clearly, every teacher's duty is to help each of his students in school to become completely free of fear, so that they can act spontaneously without the need to be told or ordered.